Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, all praises, honor, and glory be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders at Great Millstone who taught us his truth and who rule well, peace and love, salutations and mercy be unto the hopeful elect, you Akim and few Akwatim that believe in Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, with your whole heart, mind, body, and spirit, and who are waiting for these final prophecies to happen in the earth in the return of our Lord and Savior Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, who's coming to redeem and liberate us out of the hand of Esau Edom, to ransom us from the hand of him that is stronger than us, to be a redeemer for us, and for those that are waiting patiently and who have faith of the nation of Israel, to give them the blessings and the promises that were promised unto our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You Edomites have to pay. You have to pay for chattel slavery. You have to pay for slave codes, for black codes, for Jim Crow laws, for vagrancy laws, for the convict lease system, for apprentice laws, for the sundown towns, for what came to be known as the peculiar institution, which the word peculiar institution is a term that was coined by ex-president John C. Calhoun, who defended the peculiar labor of the South in 1828 and the peculiar domestic institution in 1830. The term came into general use in the 1830s, when the abolitionist followers of William Lloyd Garrison began to attack slavery. Its implicit message was that slavery in the U.S., in which I read that from Google, but basically the individual John C. Calhoun, or John Caldwell Calhoun, was an American statesman and a politician, a theorist. Reading this from Google or Wikipedia, it says from the South Carolina, who held many important positions, including being the 7th vice president of the United States from 1825 to 1832, while adamantly defending slavery and protecting the interests of the white South. So Esau has to pay for this institution, the peculiar institution, which under the peculiar institution, it didn't favor old or young. They auctioned off, old and young, so-called Negroes, which are from the tribe of Judah. Women were raped, men were raped. They had something known as buck breaking. We saw whippings, lynchings, mutilations, brandings, which they were mutilating the genitals and different parts of slaves. You have the father of how do you pronounce that, gynecology, which was an Edomite that practiced, on slave women, without anesthesia. All of this was happening under the peculiar institution, which I find that name to be interesting, that term to be interesting, because it is called the peculiar institution, and under the peculiar institution, it saw the wicked things done unto the peculiar people of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter, verse 2, for thou art an holy people unto Yahweh thy power, and Yahweh have chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth. Psalms 135:4, for Yahweh have chosen Jacob unto himself and Israel for his peculiar treasure. So the name that was given unto that institution of slavery, which is called the peculiar institution by John C. Calhoun, and later on by others, saw the enslavement, the oppression, the harmful and heinous treatment of the people of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, who are deemed and called the peculiar people. And they fought, to keep those people within chattel slavery. Chattel slavery gets its name for the fact that our people were enslaved and treated like chattel. And when, certain legislation and certain laws were passed that made it so-called illegal to have people within slavery, or our people within slavery, they introduced things like slave codes. They introduced things like black codes. And later on, when they could no longer enforce those slave codes, they came with Jim Crow laws. They came with vagrancy laws. All right, they came with the convict lease system, which went hand in hand with the vagrancy laws. Because if you were found being idle, if you were found without work, if you were found mingling with us so-called white people, if you were found idle, then they would take you and they would put you in jail. And being within jail, you can be leased out, to others, for work. Our people were forced to enter into contracts with their former oppressors. They were, which basically said that they couldn't work for anyone else. They were working for wages that were not enough to sustain themselves. They weren't allowed to lease, or to rent, or even to, own any land within certain states. Which means what? That they were forced to be in a position to where they had no other choice but to stay as slaves. Then you had something known as sundown towns, where you couldn't be, out, past sundown. And if so, then you would, if you were lucky, you would be taken and put in jail. But for the most part, they were lynching, they were hanging, they were doing all kind of, heinous, and brutal things unto our people. So you refuse to let our people go. All right, the book of Jeremiah 50 and 33, it says, "Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives, held them fast and refused to let them go." Have you not heard what happened, unto Pharaoh, and the Egyptians, for them refusing to let the children of Israel go? When you go into the book of Exodus, the 9th chapter, verse 1, it says, "Then Yahweh said unto Moses, Go in unto Pharaoh and tell him, Thus saith Yahweh, power of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. For if thou refuse to let them go, and will hold them still, behold, the hand of Yahweh is upon thy cattle, which is in the field, and upon thy horses, and upon thy asses, and upon thy camels, and upon the oxen, and upon the sheep, and upon Salakia. There shall be a very grievous murrain." So when you read Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, verse 33, that's speaking of what happened to our people, the northern and the southern kingdom in Israel. But the southern kingdom of Israel caught it the worst. They caught the brunt of it. Apostle Ramlab just went into a lesson dealing with how they caught, the brutal aspect of it, because they were the head tribe. But nonetheless, you refused to let our people go, but you held them fast within this peculiar system. So to give another example of what happened to, Pharaoh and the Egyptians, when you go into Exodus 4 and 22, it says, "And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, Thus saith Yahweh, Israel is my son, my firstborn. And I will say unto thee, Let my son go, that he may serve me. And if thou refuse to let him go, behold, I will slay thy son, even thy firstborn." So what are some of the things that happened to Egypt and to Pharaoh for refusing to let the children of Israel go? Well, there was a very grievous murrain. There was death of his cattle, his horses, his asses, his camels, his oxen. There was plagues upon his fields, his crops. There were different plagues that came upon Egypt. And the last and final plague, was the death of his firstborn and the firstborn of Egypt. All right, all of the people upon whose houses were not the blood upon the doorposts. You know, so Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai is getting ready to visit this place again, you know, and because of this peculiar institution, you know, the captivity in this land is held within a spiritual name, and that spiritual name is Egypt. This place is likened unto Egypt. And it states within Isaiah 51:9, it says, "Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of Yahweh, awake as in the ancient days and the generations of old. Art thou not it that have cut a Rahab and wounded the dragon?" You know, so Rahab is another name for Egypt. You know, in the book of Psalms, the 87th chapter, verse 4, it says, "I will make mention of Rahab in Babylon to them that know me. Behold, Philistina and Tyre in Ethiopia, this man was born there." Psalms 89:10, it says, "Thou hast broken Rahab in pieces as one that is slain, and hast scattered thine enemies with the strong arm." Now, when you go into the Hebrew, all right, the strong definition for Rahab, it says, an example, a boaster, an epithet of Egypt. Rahab, all right, an emblematic name for Egypt. So Rahab is an emblematic name for Egypt, or epithet for Egypt. And it's in Egypt is an epithet or emblematic name for America. You know, so Rahab means boaster. All right, this place is known for its arrogancy. It's known for its pride. And it's also known for the horrific things that it did unto the Lord's chosen people, as did Egypt. All right, the dragon is speaking about Pharaoh. When you go into Ezekiel 29:3, it says, "Speak and say, thus saith Yahweh power, behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, which have said, my river is mine own, and I have made it for myself." So Isaiah 51:9, all right, is speaking about when Yahweh judged Egypt for the horrific things that they did unto his people. All right. Going back to Isaiah 51 and reading verse 10, "Art thou not it which have dried the sea and the waters of the great deep, and have made the depths of the sea for a ransom to pass over? Therefore the redeemed of Yahweh shall return and come with singing unto Zion, and everlasting joy shall be upon their head, and they shall obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and mourning shall flee away." Because the sorrow and mourning, you know, has come upon us from the things that we have experienced are within this heavy captivity that we have been in. You know, but this is captivity is going to be turned away. Although our oppressors refuse to let us go, although they hold us still and refuse to let us go, all right, we're going to be redeemed and ransomed from the hand of him, you know, that is mighty. You know, and what makes him mighty? What makes him mighty is the fact that he has, you know, a standing army, you know, and not only do he have a standing army, he has the blessing of the sword. The book of Jeremiah 31:11, "For Yahweh hath redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him that is stronger than him." All right. Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai is going to awake for us. Yahushai is going to awake for us as he did in old. You know, when he came, you know, and brought those various different plagues upon Egypt. And when he stood as that last plague, all right, when he stood as the destroyer, and he went through Egypt and slain the firstborn, well, guess what? The scriptures say, you know, that the flying rolls of Yahweh is coming. All right, and Yahweh's shining angels are coming in them. Back in Isaiah, the 51st chapter, but jump into verse 17. "Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, which has drunk at the hand of the Lord the cup of his fury, and has drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling, and wrung them out." All right, see, we have drunken of the dregs of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai. We have drunken of the cup of the Lord. Jeremiah 49:12. "For thus saith Yahweh, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken, and art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt drink of it. All right, because the dregs of the cup that we drunk up, that was wrung out unto us double, is the slavery. All right, the punishments that we went through for breaking the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right, and we drunk of them, and we were given into the hand of a cruel oppressor. All right, that oppressor being you. All right, who forwarded the peculiar institution. All right, who are happy to do all of the things that you've done unto our people within this system. All right, that was done by you. But the time is going to come when we're no longer going to drink of this cup, and it's going to be given into your hand for you to drink of. That's the reason why it says, shalt thou not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it, because you're getting ready to drink down these dregs. You're getting ready to be punished. You're getting ready to go through all of the things that you brought upon us. Back in Isaiah, the 51st chapter, verse 21, therefore hear now this, thou afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. Thus saith Yahweh, all right, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, in thy power that pleadeth the cause of his people, behold, I have taken out of thine hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt no more drink of it, but thou shalt put it into the hand of them that afflict, but I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, which have said to thy soul, bow down, that we may go over. Thou hast laid thy body as the ground, and as the street to them that went over it. So you're about to be afflicted. All right, you are about to bow down. You're about to be put through what you have put us through. Lamentations 4:21, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup shall also pass through unto thee. All right, thou shalt be drunken, and shall make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no longer carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. Now, what is iniquity? All right. And just doing a simple etymology search, all right, for iniquity, all right, hostility, malevolence, hostile action, all right, wickedness, unfavorable situation, all right, unequalness, unevenness, all right, which the word in means not, and the word equity comes from aquas, which means to be just or equal. All right, the things that you did unto our people were not just, they were wicked in the eyes of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So therefore, you're going to be paid back for what you did. The book of Isaiah 14:2, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So whose captives were we? You know, who established the peculiar institution? You know, yeah, Yahweh gave us into your hand to allow you to do these things unto us, but you forwarded these things upon our people. So you're going to pay. And how are you going to pay? By going through it yourself. All right, you're about to be enslaved for the slavery that you have brought upon the nation of Israel, the Lord's peculiar people. The book of Isaiah, the 33rd chapter, verse 1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be a spoil. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. You know, because those things that were aforesaid name, you know, were very treacherous things. You know, auctioning off, you know, families, separating families one from another. All right, women being raped, men being buck breaked. All right, or going through buck breaking, where you would take the masculine slave, you know, or the slave that, you know, people will look up to, you know, that gave people courage, that gave them hope, and you will do this heinous and disgusting and vile act in front of all of the men, women, and children, you know, so that they will be afraid you know, and the women will raise their children up to fear you, all right, because seeing that strong male that they look to for hope, you know, and for strength, and that gave them courage, not being able to defend them, it will have a traumatizing effect on them, you know. And then to this day, our people are going through what is known as a post-traumatic slave syndrome. You know, you have the term post-traumatic stress syndrome, or PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Our people are going through what is known as a post-traumatic stress disorder, or post-traumatic slave syndrome. All right, we're still feeling the effects of slavery unto this day, you know, and the black codes and the things that you did post-slavery, you know, to hinder us from advancing, the things that you are doing now, because we're still in slavery. So families were separated, sold to separate plantation owners. All right, the whippings, the lynchings, all right, the modern day lynchings, the gunning down and the killing in the streets. All right, the mutilations that were done into body parts, you know, as punishments and for your sport. You know, you had something that was known as a hog head, where you would put slaves within a barrel that had nails in it, and you would roll them down a hill for sport. All right, you had public burnings, all right, which multiplied after slavery. All right, you had you know, long-term chainings, all right, which you would chain slaves in ways to the point where their limbs would separate from their body. All right, hanging them up from your ceiling, all right, having their necks, you know, chained in a way to the point where their ligaments, you know, of their arms, you know, their legs would separate from their body. All right, you had forced reproductions. All right, you will rape our men, rape our women. So these things you have to pay for, man. All right, those are the treacherous things that you did into our people within slavery. So this cup is about to be passed over into you, and you're going to drink down the dregs of it.